Okay, so welcome and thank you for coming today. And I have, I don't want to say, I shouldn't say it's bad news, but I'm just going to, I'm supposed to teach the Heart Sutra, but I'm actually in a famous sort of bait and switch move. I'm going to do 3 classes just on applied meditation. I was in the shower the other day and I just realized I've just been bludgeoning people to death with emptiness teachings. And the most important thing is to actually meditate on emptiness. So actually not have it where we're just doing it like some kind of philosophy class and discussing it. But technically, if we do want to get enlightened and actually have the real results of the Buddhist past, we have to meditate on emptiness. So then I thought, well, I've been teaching these classes for a couple years now or whatever, and I realized that I haven't recorded anything just on meditation. I mean, this is a big joke. I guess people can turn around and make fun that, I'm doing all this Buddhist stuff, but where's the meditations? Or just listening to you talk all the time. So I did do a course probably during the pandemic where it was actually on low rig, and we did do applied meditation teachings at that point. But I realized that that's a few years ago now. And of course, it wasn't recorded. It's just sort of gone back into emptiness, so to speak, those teachings. So I wanted to do just a quick little detour here of about 3 classes just on meditation and you could say mind and mental factors, or some Buddhist psychology teachings on meditation to help you do applied meditation. So practice shamatha or shine. So practicing this, you can then have as your object your Mahamudra meditation, or even just the sort of traditional emptiness meditations you get in LamRim, like LamRim Chenmo, the kind of emptiness yoga, searching for the I and the 5 aggregates. And that's sort of the object that you will take using your concentrated mind. So I thought, okay, well, there you go. So I'm just going to give this. And then once this little detour is done, we're going to come back to the Heart Sutra, which is actually, there's quite a bit of material in that particular course. And that's, of course, guess what? More teachings on emptiness. So there you go. So this is just this sort of came as sort of a spontaneous thing, and almost I have to say a little bit of a guilt trip for myself that I'm not teaching enough meditation. So that's what we'll do today. So I'd like to give a little bit of time just at the end for a few minutes, just for some questions or something if people want, or a little bit of sharing with this. And I'm going to do this week live, next week live. Then we've got the big consecration at the temple here in Nelson. So the following Saturday won't be a live class, but I'll record the 3rd class sometime over the next couple of weeks. And then when I go back to the coast, I'll start recording classes for the Heart Sutra. Okay, starting with the Heart Sutra here. Homage to perfection, wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, together the great assembly of monks and nuns, great assembly of Bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Sprivalkshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly the practice of profound perfection and wisdom, looking perfectly also the 5 aggregates being in inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Sprivalkshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should the son of the lineage train who wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Sprivalkshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly correctly also at the 5 aggregates being empty and inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, and form is none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics, not produce and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there's no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, so forth up to the mentality element, and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path. No exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no just lost my train right here. There's no attainment. Bodhisattvas rely upon by perfection wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing under beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly. The 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge and surpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gada Gada Paragada Parasamgadi Bodhi Soha. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose to that concentration, said to Pravakshara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good, O son, just like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagata will also rejoice. Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra, Srivakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, whilst worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, here we go. I'm still, all these years later, kind of getting used to my progressives. A lot of times I still kind of don't know where to look, and it kind of screws up when I'm reading things. Okay, so let's just do some preliminary prayers here. Okay, so let's just take a moment to visualize ourselves in a wide open space, round like blue lapis lazuli, and ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings. Mother on our left, Father on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, and people we like the least, tried issues with in front of us as objects of compassion. And moving out from there, we can think of all people from all over the world being with us, all the sort of natural beings coming in the animal world, all the sort of, the plants and animals and insects and everything together. All beings from the spirit world, the different astral, ethereal, and elemental planes are here. Different celestial gods and goddesses and demigods, so forth. And countless beings in lower states of rebirth, the predator realm beings and hell beings are all here. And one big spiritual happy family. And again, the sky, a beautiful dome of a blue sky above us. We can just visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in the center of all the other holy beings around him, kind of like constellations around the full moon of all of our different lineage gurus, from the old Nukanapa traditions, all going back to India, the Buddha Shakyamuni, all the different Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yidams, Arhats, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors. And Buddha Shakyamuni is like a big harvest moon. You just visualize him in lotus position in the 3 robes of a monk with a golden energy body. His right hand is touching the earth in the subduing mudra, and left hand is holding a begging bowl from its own nectar in it. And then at his heart is his higher form, the Sambhogakaya form, the divine couple, Vajradhara and Vajradhatu Ishvari. And they're in sexual embrace, seated meditation posture. She's sort of straddling him, and they have beautiful sapphire blue bodies with crowns and jewelry. And he's holding a bell in his left hand, Vajra or diamond scepter in his right. She has a skull cup with the nectar in her left hand, and a cleaver chopping knife in her right hand. So taking refuge from our hearts here, I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, till we achieve enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, generating this great compassion that we want to reach awakening here, full enlightenment, in order to become a Buddha, to help all sentient beings reach that same state. Let's generate bodhicitta. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no ever be separated from their happiness, and may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. For the 7 limbs here, with my body, speech, and mind, humbly I prostrate and make offerings both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds from all time and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. Now opening our heart here with the mandala offering, holding in our hearts, beautiful purified universe. As an offering to all holy beings, we go, this crown is sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers. The great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offer thus, may all beings enjoy such peace. We send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Gurus, so in a Guru to me. Okay, so from the hearts of all holy beings, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying. So we can feel now, having sort of opened our heart with sort of the generosity of offering the mandala, like the circle of reciprocity here, giving the spirit world offerings. Spirit world gives us blessings or energy back. Golden light and nectar is coming down. So nectar is same kind of color as the gold. So just like streams of gold, liquid and light coming from the hearts of all holy beings. So it's just like the night sky of all the different constellation stars and planets. They're all kind of sending in energy. Same thing. All the sort of sunlight is going into, or sort of starlight is going into our bodies, us and all sentient beings, and making us glow. So golden light, we can also feel that we're just becoming like crystal clear, purified, or even shining like diamonds. Okay, so just like charging your cell phone or your iPads, like, it's flashing whatever, 1%, you stick it in, zzz, it starts going up. You have the super fast Apple charger, and our energy levels are going up. So our spiritual power is increasing. Our heart is opening. Easy to embody the teachings. And just feel again that they're giving us all the compassion and love, wisdom, and the power to share with others. So from our hearts, we can say, Buddha Shakyamuni and all holy beings, grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind. And then just feel just like all the like little stars, almost like little satellites sort of moving across the night sky. All the different Buddhas and holy beings start dissolving into Buddha Shakyamuni, who's glowing even more vibrant, like a huge sun in the sky or a huge harvest moon. And then he sort of starts to melt into golden light, sort of melting inwards into the divine couple. And Vajradhara and Vajradhatu Ishvari now are just in the sky like a little blue diamond. And just like a shooting star, you can just feel that they come down, almost like a little Disney movie, like a little fairy or something. Comes down to the crown of our head, enters our central channel, and slowly starts to descend to our heart. And when they reach our heart, just feel that they dissolve into us again, like you're dropping that sugar cube into a cup of hot water. Again, all of their realizations, all of their virtues and values and powers going directly into us. All their realizations. Great bliss and clarity and spaciousness here. Hey, a prayer meditation here. And just turn to the teachings here on sort of applied meditation to give us a little bit of help with our Mahamudra practice here. And so again, when you read teachings on Mahamudra from First Panchalama or Vipassana teachings on emptiness in LamRim Chenmo, they always say there's two ways of teaching a Mahamudra or meditating on the emptiness of the mind. The mind meditating on the emptiness of itself is that we can do teachings where we practice concentration, shamatha shine first, and then you get the vipassana or teachings on emptiness, and you use your concentrated mind to meditate on the view of emptiness and get realizations. Or you can do it the other way around, where you're taught emptiness first as a view, and then you go back and train in concentration and put those two together. So I think in some ways we've been doing it the second way, even though that's not the way First Panchen Lama and Tsongkhapa have advised. They always say, of course, if the whole point's to realize emptiness directly, you don't want to waste any time. It's like the real medicine you need. So you should be training all along in concentration, really, really be a good meditator. So right away you can dive into meditating on emptiness to be able to get a yogic direct perceiver. So I think that that's the intention. So some of these teachings I'm just going to give now. It's from ACI class number 3, and they're just pulled from Kamala Shila's teachings on meditation. I know Zongin's Dalai Lama is a good commentary on that. I think it's a little bit of an older book now called Stages of Meditation, but it's also in LamRim Chenmo. If you go to the intermediate scope and then even into the great scope, it's of course the 5th perfection or paramita is meditation and concentration. And it's the second higher teaching of the 3 higher teachings in the intermediate scope, and is sort of the main sort of teachings. The 3 higher trainings you get in Theravada Buddhism is sort of our foundation, when you get trainings in ethics or sila, in meditation shamatha, and of course teachings on emptiness or vipassana. Okay, so I got a little note here that of course it's the famous thing that I've read books where they say it never happened. It's just kind of like a apocryphal mythological story, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, the point is, like anything, it's kind of like a little bit moral of the story anyways, that Kamala Shila went to Tibet, and I think it was in the 8th century with King Samghampo or whatever, like that was not Trisong Detsen, it's maybe his grandfather or something, I can't remember, you can check that out on Wikipedia. But they had a bit of a debate in the sense that Kamala Shila represented more sort of the classical Indian Buddhism, and then the Chinese monk that was teaching Tibet Han Shan at the time was teaching more what would be called Chan, or sort of, I guess, Zen, more discovery modes of meditating on the emptiness of the mind. So the claim is that they had a debate, whether it was in person or through letters, or whether there's some kind of an arranged debate between what's the best way to meditate on emptiness. And the claim is that Kamala Shila won that debate, that his sort of gradual approach to meditation and the path won out. And so in Tibet, they're like, okay, this is kind of what we want to do instead. Like Han Shan's, his approach is more popular in China at the time. Right now, we're going to follow Kamala Shila's idea. So what you got is I don't think Han Shan actually said this, but sort of the cartoon version of his idea is the idea that you should, quote unquote, empty the mind, make the mind sort of get rid of all thoughts. And to this day, when I meet people, whatever, on the plane or just my personal life, that find out I'm a Buddhist, they're like, well, I tried meditating, but it didn't work. And I said, oh, really? How come it didn't work? And they say, well, I tried to make my mind blank and it wouldn't work. And I'm always like, and I always just say, I don't know who put that out as an email or a memo years ago, but it's just like, everyone thinks meditation is about making your mind nothing or blank, stop thinking. I don't know where people got that idea, but it's just so prevalent. And of course, if the mind's nature is to think, of course, you can't turn it off. And so, of course, the meditation's not going to work. You can't sort of fight yourself into not thinking. So this is what the claim is. Han Shan was kind of promoting this kind of cartoon version of meditation. Like I say, probably wasn't, but for our purposes, that was sort of the misunderstanding. And Kamala Shila says that the point isn't to empty your mind, but to focus your mind on a content. Right? So meditation is not a means to an end, but rather a tool. So that's what we're going to learn about here. So there's, pardon me, 5 parts to learning sort of applied meditation teachings here. Number 1 is what we call Jorcho, which I've taught before, which is the 6 preliminary activities necessary to sort of shift your gear from a worldly attitude to more of a spiritual attitude. So it's kind of like before yoga class, everyone rolls their little mat out and is stretching and lying there. It's kind of like you're getting into the box. It's the same thing here. You can't just sort of go from fifth gear and crash it down into first gear. We have to sort of gradually sort of get out of our worldly attitude and into more of a spiritual space. You have to create that space. So the 6 preliminary activities or Jorcho is what allows you to do that. Number 2 is the 6 conditions of the surrounding environment or space you're meditating in. Number 3 is the Eightfold Virachana posture of how to sit properly. Number 4 is the mental process, just looking at your mind and working with it. So there's 3 parts to that, which is 1, the 5 problems you get, 2, the 8 corrections, and then finally the 9, number 3 here, the 9 mental stages or the 9 mental abidings of concentration or tranquil abiding. And then the 5th one is the object of mind, what we're going to be actually meditating or looking at. So next 3 classes, I'll go over these things. So the little note here is meditation, again, is a tool. It is not an end. It does not have a spiritual value unless it is focused upon a spiritual object. And so that's the important thing, is that meditation itself technically isn't, there isn't anything spiritual about concentration or meditating. That's the important thing. So people always say, oh, I'm a spiritual person, I meditate. Well, the question you can ask if you want to be a bit of a jerk is, okay, well, what are you meditating on? Because if I'm just doing black magic meditating, let's say I hate my mom, I'm sending you bad energy every day, I sit down at 8 in the morning and I'm focusing my mind on hurting, giving my mom cancer. That's like meditation, but it's obviously a really, really negative, evil form of meditation. So meditation itself is, like I always like to say, a cat can be stalking a bird, a sniper can be waiting in a war to get a target to shoot, some general coming out of his car or something like that. A concentrated mind itself is neutral. So even when you're watching your breath, when we're doing breath meditation, that itself is just a neutral object. That's not going to give you any spiritual realization, just going to concentrate your mind. So we'll see if you do deeper studies in this, you'll see that you get at higher levels of tranquil abiding, especially the final 9th level, you'll get what they call mundane siddhis, or you'll have what they call, I guess you could say, magic powers or miracle powers based on the concentration of your mind. And there's a list of a whole bunch of things you can do, not the least of which is clairvoyance, where you can read other people's minds because your mind's so concentrated, you can just see into people's thoughts. Again, these aren't necessarily pure spiritual things. They're just side effects of your meditation, and they can be used for negative purposes. And this is how you get cult leaders or evil politicians or people with spiritual power, Shakti, that can do bad things with it. So spiritual, like meditation itself, again, is a technique. What we want to do is learn what it is, and then what we're going to apply it to is the holy object of meditating on emptiness. So that's the definition of meditation when we talk about Gom. It actually means habituating your mind or familiarizing your mind with a positive object. An object's positive or spiritual because it makes you happy. It brings about true lasting happiness in you. So I have a little note here. Mind is plastic. Whatever mind is around it becomes, like that. So if we focus on a holy object, it becomes holy. So of course, when we've been sort of learning about the conventional nature of the mind, that the mind is clear and cognized. In other words, that the mind itself is immaterial. It has no nature. It's just sheer awareness, which again has no really quality to it. It's just the place where things appear. If mind, just like Aristotle says, mind is nothing before it thinks, Jean-Paul Sartre says that mind is nothingness, no thingness, it has no quality. So whatever you put in the mind is what it becomes, right? So mind is plastic. So this is what's important to see with meditation. Whatever you're meditating on, that's what you will become. Whatever, you are what you think, as Buddha says, you are what you think, you are what you do. So that's why it's so important to make sure that your object that you're meditating on is a positive object, because your mind will become that way. It's like a pure glass of water and that you're dropping food coloring into it. This is my philosophy professor, is a big Aristotelian. He always said, pardon me, kind of like be careful what you put in your mind, because that's what you become. And that whatever you put in your mind, the laws of the content apply to that. And so what he was saying is that what you see in human nature, even with politics, is that you can change people's minds by putting different contents into it. So, one day our whole population becomes communist. Everyone runs around acting socialist. Next day it becomes capitalist. Everyone runs around acting like capitalists. One day we're all into Freudian psychology. Everyone has an ego and an id. Next day we're all into this or that. So it's interesting that the mind, because it has no quality, can become anything. So that's what makes it so amazing. Just like this is why Mahamudra is so good, is that the mind has no quality, become anything. And that what are we doing? We're meditating on emptiness, which is an absence. So these two go together, and what you get is meditating on an absence completely opens up your life, gives you the space to become something different. So this is how it unties the knot of all your ego and suffering, which you've been filling into that space. Which is why Ajahn Chah always says, that great time master, is that he said to Western people in particular, you have a huge house that's full of garbage, Western people. All your thoughts, and you're so complicated. He's like, once you clean up that house and get all the garbage in, that's a huge house you can live in, a huge space. That's beautiful. Okay, general definitions of meditation types here. There's about 6 of them. Number 1, which is called Gompa. So this is, when it's Tibetans, we always say Gompa is actually the temple, but what it actually means is a place to meditate, a meditation here. So Gom is meditation, Pa is, I guess maybe the definite article there or something, Gompa. So it means, again, familiarizing yourself, getting used to something by doing it over and over again. Bringing an object to your mind repeatedly until you get used to it. Burning something into the mind so that it becomes fixed with it in the mind. It's also called bhavan in Sanskrit. So one way, we always use the word meditation, but technically if meditation means familiarizing or habituating your mind to something, using the word making a habit is another way of replacing the word meditation with another expression. So I'm habituating myself. I'm training myself. So you can train yourself out of something. Like I still swear a lot. I'm always trying not to swear and use kind of like hard speech. So I have to sort of train myself, like training an animal, training a dog, not to do that. Another word I like using, coming from more phenomenology, is that instead of saying habituating or training, you can say embodying. So the famous French philosopher Merleau-Ponty always said that what you take to be your body isn't just your body, but your whole system of habits in the world that you've set up. So you and your body, your body and the world are the same thing. Your body is set up an embodiment in the world, a whole set of like little rituals that you do that make you who you are. And like I said, you can see what happens. I still do this where you have to be clear and use mindfulness. Otherwise, your automatic pilot body takes over. So I do now, unless I'm clear, like when I'm coming down when I go to the end of the street here, I can go to the temple or I could go into town. I've been so used to going to the temple in our land that oftentimes I have to go up to get groceries and I'm distracted. And then all of a sudden I'm driving up to the temple, like, this. So the whole point is that your body's doing it, right? Like you don't even have to think about it. Your body's taking you there. So actually what we want to do with meditation is the exact same thing, but with positive objects, virtuous objects that create happiness. So I was telling people, is you've done this all your life with negative things. All the soap operas in your head are all the objects you've trained yourself to think about that run automatically. So, when you get older, I'm getting older now, there's about 4 or 5 stories that are always going. When they always say old people always talk about the same thing, like they're on a loop, and it's because you've habituated yourself so much to telling those stories about yourself or whatever. So you've set all these things up. What we're trying to do is set up different kinds of stories or different kinds of objects. So that's the first main definition of meditation. Second one's called Samten, which is the name of the 5th paramita of concentration, LamRim. It refers to the 4 levels of very deep meditation that result in being born in the 4 levels of a form realm. So technically, Trungpa Rinpoche always said, be careful about meditating with all new age stuff. Like, in other words, if you're just doing new age practice, new age woo-woo stuff and meditating, all that'll do when you die is you'll go into some God realm. You won't get enlightened. You'll just upgrade yourself to higher levels of samsara. So we've got 3 levels of samsara here. We've got desire, form, and formless realm, as we know. So the form realm, we all know about the desire realm. It's the desire realm. It's most of samsara is that it's beings that think of food and sex. We have bodies of flesh and blood and so forth, whether you're in hell or whether you're a human being. The God realm of the form realm, it's invisible to us. These beings have very long lifespans. They're in a state of complete bliss or pleasure, and their bodies are made out of light, or like rainbow bodies. And then the formless realm are these beings where they have no physical body at all, gods, where they're basically just consciousness in deep jhana absorption states. So they always say these gods are just like empty space, or just like a mind in a deep absorption jhana. And these beings live for like countless years. We don't even know, and they're completely all blissed out in meditation. So if your meditation isn't to change the world, to help people, to relieve suffering, to become a Buddha, but you just want to bliss out, and again, I've got friends that do this. I'm not criticizing them. They want to run around and do that. Just go to these meditations and just kind of bliss out and feel the energy. Technically, what might happen when you die, bing, you go up to some higher God realm. And guess what? You get to do this for 1,000,000 years. Where you're just like, oh my God, I'm blissed out. But again, to what purpose? Like the end, that karma runs out. You end up back here with a job and a mortgage, and you're like, what happened? Like, I used all that good karma for nothing. So that's the Samten level. Number 3, Domjuk, which is called causal meditations. They cause rebirth. So these are meditations, again, focusing your mind that can project you into the next rebirth. So 1 would be meditation, which is causes rebirth in the form realm. 2 causes rebirth in the formless realm. So sort of higher, again, these are more, I guess you could say, meditations that are more worldly. And then there's some version of this number 3, which is a cessation meditation, state which your gross mind is almost shut down. And again, this is sort of a deep jhana state that you can go into, but again, you'll when the karma runs, you'll take rebirth somewhere else, a higher realm, like a God realm, meditating, and again, you're there till the karma runs out. And then well, I just want to say, I might have told you this story before. You don't know who's in a jhana state, who's like actually meditating on empty. Like, we don't know other people's meditations, right? But I might have told you, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but when I was in India years ago, I think it was in '99, one of the guys we were staying with at the temple there at Ganden Rinpoche's place, she had some amazing students there, but a lot of them were long-time students. They had really, really funny stories. But one guy is a Norwegian guy, and his wife was Tsongkhapa Rinpoche's niece or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, he had really, really funny stories. But it was his friends. I don't know if he actually saw this or some of his Dharma friends there, but I might have told you this. But anyway, they'd heard there's this guy who's in some jhana state in Varanasi, and he's just on one of the ghats, and you can see him, and they say that he's been there like hundreds and hundreds of years meditating. He's just in this jhana state, absorption state. And so Rora's friends went to find this guy, and of course no one knows where he is, but some people do, right? And so they're like, look, we're looking. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And then finally, maybe they hit the right kind of sadhus where they're like, look, we're looking for this guy. We're kind of curious. Like, oh yeah, so and so. Yeah. We know where they say he's actually over there, but he's hidden away. Like his little alcove or cave is because he doesn't want to be disturbed. He doesn't want people bugging him. So it's kind of like there's one of the ghats, but it's to the side and da. So they got that instruction. So they went there, and everything. There might have been stuff in the way or whatever. So they had to dig around. Then it's like, oh my God, there's like this little cave cut into the side of the riverbank, and it's tiny. And so they look in, and here's this guy, and they said he's really kind of short, like really small guy, like sadhu guy, and he's just there like this, and he's completely like just like meditating, right? Just like you see like in a cartoon or something. And they're like, oh man, this is a statue. It's like a carved wooden statue, this little brown guy meditating, right? And like, what a joke. Someone played a joke, and they're like, well, let's just see if it's him. And so one of the guys reached in and grabbed him, and it was a guy. Like, it's actually like he was like flesh and blood. They're like, oh my God. And he was and again, absolutely oblivious to the world. He's just like a wooden statue. And they're just like, oh, he's been there for like whatever 800 years or so. Like, so the point I'm saying is that these are these kinds of jhana states that you can get in. And again, you might be in there for a long time. when you die, you take a rebirth in a higher God realm, or the karma runs out. The point is that that's the power of the mind. It's amazing, but unless you're putting it to a virtuous object, it doesn't really end up anywhere. Okay, Shine is the next form of meditation, which we all know, which is, of course, shamatha, which means stay or at peace. Okay, so we in Buddhism, we want to link this to Laktong, which is sort of what they call superior exceptional seeing, which is, of course, Vipassana or meditating on emptiness. Okay, these two always go together. We get Shine or concentration, tranquil abiding. We use that mind to meditate on emptiness or Vipassana, superior seeing. Okay, so Shine is the instrument, the focus is the wisdom. So that, in other words, it's the instrument, and then the content is Vipassana. Next form, number 5, is Tingling Zin, which is one point and state of mind. You can keep your mind on one object, and this is actually basically just tranquil abiding, the highest form of Shine. Or this is also called Samadhi in Sanskrit. Of course, you've heard about that word before. And number 6, Nyamshak Jedrup, which is a meditation where you see emptiness directly. Contemplation is what you saw in emptiness. As you come down, you see the 4 Arya truths. So this is basically real Vipassana as a yogic direct perceiver on emptiness, a direct realization of emptiness where you no longer see it with a conceptual generic image. The generic image represents the path of preparation. This is the path of seeing, where you see emptiness directly. And you see that they always say for about 15, 20 minutes. And when you come down, you're basically at what they say a form level, God realm level of mind. That concentration is so deep and so powerful that when you come out of it, they say it's almost like a descent. You're coming down into your normal world, being a human again, with your regular sort of mind. Well, you still have a mind of tranquil abiding, but you come out of that absorption on emptiness. And at that point, we'll see when we're studying the Heart Sutra, what you see directly are the 4 Noble Truths. You come out of it, you're back in conventional reality, not ultimate reality. You're not seeing an absence, you're seeing a fullness of all the individual things around you. You're back to your normal life. But the first thing you see when you come out of that is the 4 Noble Truths. You come out of that and you say, Buddha was right. I can't believe it. Like, I read all these Buddhist books, didn't know if they were true. Now I know they're true. I see them directly. So why they call them Noble Arya Truths is you're an Arya being now. You're no longer a human being. You've seen emptiness. You're a complete spiritual being. You know, divide the world in 2 types of people. People have seen emptiness, people that haven't. You are now part of that very small club of people that have seen emptiness directly, and you are an Arya. So the 4 Arya truths are the 4 truths Aryas see directly. So you see these 4 truths directly. No longer any doubt. You're like, I know what true sufferings are. I know how they're caused with true origins. I know how to stop them with true cessations. I know the path. It's exactly what I've been doing, is meditating on emptiness. And that's how you can end up teaching this to other people as a Buddha. Okay, so just to finish up here, we'll have a quick little question and answer. People want 2 very obvious things for people that have been meditating a long time, which is the 6 preliminaries and the 7 limbs. So if we're wanting to meditate on emptiness or do our concentration meditation, we have to start with Jorcho. And then to make something Buddhist, we have to make sure that, of course, we have refuge and bodhicitta, but we have the 7 limbs. So just for those people watching the video who don't know what the 6 preliminaries or Jorcho are, number 1, start, in Tibetan, it's Nekang Sangwang, which is tidy your room. I know this sounds like some kind of, what is it, that Jordan Peterson guy, clean your room or whatever, but number 1 is you have to clean your room. You have to make a spiritual space if you really want your meditation to be good. You can't meditate. You can, like when you're good enough, you go to Tim Hortons like at full rush hour and everyone's having coffee and donuts. You can sit right there and meditate on emptiness. But most people, we have to make sort of a sacred space first to change the energy or vibration. So we clean the room. Number 2, Chukpa, which is set up the altar and offerings. We have images of Buddhas and we make offerings, again, to open our heart. 3, Kabden Semki, which is going for refuge and generating bodhicitta with our proper meditation posture. Number 4, Sokshin Mikpa, which is visualize the lamas of vast and profound tradition. So we visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, all holy beings, and we can visualize all the Buddhist gurus from Buddha Shakyamuni onward to our teachers, in particular for the vast and profound path. So the teachers like Arya Sangha, Vasubandhu have taught the Bodhicitta teachings, and Nagarjuna, R.A. David, so forth, that have taught the emptiness teachings. We sort of include all of our teachers up here. 5, which is Drikdang Sokdak, which is purifying obstacles, gathering together power of goodness, which means basically purifying yourself and creating merit. This is the 7 limb practice that we do to do that. And number 6, Soldet, which is requesting blessings. So blessings, that I'm a real big fan of that, obviously, is that we ask the holy beings to give us energy to do our practice. So the 7 limbs, of course, this in Tibetan, it's Chaksal, Chukpa, Shakpa, Yirang, what's the other? My writing's so bad. Chukor, Korwa, and Soldet, which is, again, number 1 being prostration, number 2 offerings, number 3 opening yourself up, confession, number 4 rejoicing, number 5 requesting teachings, number 6 asking holy beings to stay, not to break your relationship with them, and number 7 dedication here. So we know that this is what actually purifies our mind and creates the merit. So once we've done that, we can sit and meditate. Okay, so I have here blessing. One thing you ask for is your ability to increase. So this is interesting. This is the sort of Spinoza's or Nietzschean angle to blessings that I'm always sort of pushing in teachings here, is that you ask for more spiritual power from the Buddhas. Their energy is to give you more energy. So you're asking for your spiritual abilities to increase. So may I be able to sit longer? May I be able to learn more? May I be able to study better? May I be able the power for more concentration? You're asking help to increase your power in the world, your spiritual power to be able to do this. And that's a beautiful thing. So one way of doing that is actually visualizing the Buddha's giving you this power, giving you this energy, that it sort of awakens your own power. And just quickly here, I guess I should just give it the meditation posture for those who don't know Virachana posture. Of course, the proper meditation posture is named after one of the 5 transcendent Dhyani Buddhas, Buddha Virachana, which they have here. That is the Buddha called appearances, because he can liberate why he's the Buddha associated with form. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. And so he can emanate all different forms or appearances. That's what Virachana means. Another way of looking at Virachana as a name is light, sort of innate light. So in Japanese Buddhism, he's called Dainichi Nyorai, which means light being, inner light being, which is beautiful. So of course, we start with lotus posture. If we can sit full lotus, half lotus, or cross legs, this is a way that you sit where it doesn't distract you. It's comfortable. We sit with the left hand on the right palm. Of course, energetically, when you sit in full lotus posture in this form, it's the idea that it completely balances your chi or your winds. So if your chi is balanced, you're able to meditate, because of course, chi or prana go with your mind. So if you're sitting improperly like this, your mind will be improper. It won't flow in the right channels. I remember one of our dear Dharma friends, Chuck Damoff, back in the early 80s, had a guy that had sort of like a psychotic break in meditation in one of these retreats of Tibetan Lamas in the early 80s. And there's all those stories back then. I heard so many stories from people like Chuck, of people just really having these big meltdowns in retreats back in the late 70s, early 80s, who knows why. But this guy freaked out. I think he stripped naked, and the Gomba started running around circles and ran off into the field or something. So what was interesting is that eventually, they caught him and he was okay or whatever. But some of the Tibetan geshes were like, "How was he sitting? Tell me how he was sitting." And they're like, "Well, who cares? No, we won't want to know how he was sitting." And then they're like, "Well, he was always sitting," like they gave sort of thing, like he was always sitting improperly. And these guys was like, "Well, that's it. His prana's all messed up. Like he was all crooked and kind of like bored and falling asleep." And it's like so he kept pushing the prana kind of like in the wrong direction there. And then he popped. It's like, this is why you have to sit properly. If you sit properly, the energy can flow. It's not going to get congested and become a problem. Eyes, of course, you don't keep your eyes too wide, or you have to have them sort of subtly looking down here, because if your eyes are wide or whatever, they can distract you. And of course, if you meditate with your eyes closed, which a lot of times I do, it does make you sleepy and dull. Of course, I'm admitting that I'm not a good meditator. Number 3 is your body back has to be straight. Again, your chest is one plane. You shouldn't be sitting against a wall. And again, this helps the prana flow. Your shoulders are level. And the claim is don't move so your feelings will go. So if you have straight shoulders like this, it kind of is a way of balancing your energies or even your feelings in your meditation. Your head is slightly tilted downward, centered and straight. Your teeth or lips should be the natural position. So if you're just closed mouth here, prevents swallowing and dry mouth. And then it says to keep your tongue just behind your upper teeth, and this prevents thirst. What's interesting about that, if you study Qigong, like my amazing Qigong teacher wife, or I studied Qigong with one of my teachers for years too, a big thing they always teach you when you're doing what they call microcosmic orbit, where you're connecting, when you're meditating, your Ren and Du meridian. Du meridian runs along your back to the top of your mouth. Ren runs up the front to the bottom of your mouth. They always say, if you read Mentek, she has got a great book on that, that when you're sitting, visualizing the energy going on this channel, it's a very sort of coarse channel, energy channel. And by doing that, it starts to open up your whole subtle body and allow you to meditate. They always say to touch your tongue to the top of your mouth because it joins those two channels and allows the energy to flow. So if you put it behind your back, your teeth, you're actually joining the Du and Ren meridian channel. So it's you relax and start to meditate better. So one of my Qigong teachers said, that's why if you see little babies, they're always touching the tongue to the top of your mouth because it feels good. They know how to do that. And it's like, wow, it's so interesting. And then Joe Mayer, our great Qigong teacher, is like, I'm telling you a secret. And we're like, what? You want the secret? The real special secret? And we're like, okay, what's the special secret? You don't have to do that deliberately because when you relax, automatically your tongue is going to go up. So you don't have to do it like this, sitting trying to connect that. He's like, if you're in a meditation, you'll notice your tongue goes up on its own and joins those two channels. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. It's like, that's amazing. There you go. So, and then sometimes that's the sevenfold posture of Vairocana. Sometimes they add an eighth thing, which is just the breath. So, of course, once you start meditating on your breath, it relaxes you, it allows you to shift gears. So, of course, it's almost like shifting, like you put the clutch in and you put the shift into neutral. Once you start meditating on your breath, it allows you to do that, which is why we always start with a breathing meditation to put it into neutral. Then you can put your mind on a virtuous object, something from LamRim or emptiness, let's say. Okay, so that's that. I've got a couple more classes just on this, but I did want to sort of give a bit of an introduction again for the people just sort of even watching on YouTube or something who haven't had the meditations instructions. So any questions before we sort of finish off? Any comments or sharing? I know for you guys here that have shown up, you've heard this a million times before. You're good meditators. It's probably not anything new or anything sort of confusing. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we'll end on there. And next week we will take it. I wanted to talk a little bit about in the next class how to deal with certain obstacles of meditation and their corrections. So again, just if you're meditating on Mahamudra, you start having certain kinds of things come. Now, Mahamudra is actually that's the best way because the obstacles self-liberate. So maybe these sort of obstacles and their corrections would be for other kinds of more sutric meditations you'd be doing, but they're really good to know anyway. So even if you're just trying to meditate on the bus, watch your breath, and certain obstacles are coming up, it's good to know how to take care of them, right? There you go. And then a little bit on what you need in your environment to have a good place to meditate, in particular, if you're doing, wanting to do something like a shamatha retreat at home, where you're just doing a mindfulness retreat, let's say for the week or something. There are certain conditions you have to have in your space to make the energy or vibration good to make the meditation easier. So I'll talk about that next week. Okay, so let's just dedicate the merit here by the blessings of all holy beings, the truth of karma, and the power of our pure bodhicitta intention, of our dharma wishes be fulfilled. May all sentient beings reach awakening. Okay, thank you, and see you next time. Let's press stop here.